Alexander the Great Volkanovski, the unstoppable force of the UFC featherweight division.
Enter Alexander Volkanovski, 13-1. That's going to do it. Alexander Volkanovski. What a moment for the New South Wales native. 20 consecutive wins and a title defense for the best featherweight in the world.
Volkanovski is the UFC's newly minted pound-for-pound king. With lightning-fast strikes, ironclad resilience, and an unyielding determination. So let's quickly dive into his background. And trust me, it's not what you think. Volkanovski was born on September 29, 1988, in New South Wales, Australia. Standing at 5 feet 6 inches tall, he spent most of his career fighting at 145 pounds. He began training in Greco-Roman wrestling at an early age, and won a national title twice at the age of 12. And just 2 years later, he gave it up to pursue a career in rugby. After graduating from Lake Illawarra High School, he worked as a concreter while playing semi-pro rugby. And he actually had a pretty decent career playing for the Warilla Gorillas. He was awarded the Mick Cronin Medal in 2010 as the league's best player. After their grand finale victory in 2011, he decided to quit rugby at age 23 to pursue a professional career in mixed martial arts. Let's briefly go over his early career. He quickly had to drop some weight as he weighed 214 pounds during his rugby career. And after going 4-0 during his amateur career, he turned pro. He won a Pacific Extreme Combat title and 2 Australian Fighting Championship featherweight titles, ultimately amassing a record of 13-1 with 10 straight wins prior to joining the UFC. With that said, let's talk about his time in the UFC. On November 26, 2016, Volkanovski's big break finally came in. He made his debut at UFC Fight Night 101 in Melbourne, Australia. He stepped into the Octagon as a relatively unknown fighter, though he wasted no time making an impact. After some back-and-forth grappling exchanges in the first, his opponent went face down for a leg lock in the second round.
But every time he chases a leg lock, he's exposing himself.
The ill-fated submission attempt gave the Aussie the opening he needed, as he landed vicious right hands on his opponent for a TKO stoppage. After the fight, he dropped from lightweight to featherweight, and that's really where his reign started. He went on an impressive winning streak, defeating notable opponents such as Jeremy Kennedy, Chad Mendes, and Jose Aldo. But it was his first fight against the longtime featherweight champion, Max Holloway, that truly put Volkanovski on the map. It was December 14th, 2019 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Max Holloway is on a 13-fight featherweight win streak, and Volkanovski would put on an absolute clinic. He mostly used leg kicks to limit Holloway's mobility and shut down his offense.
Look at the size of the tree trunk legs on Volkanovski.
And after 5 rounds in the co-main event, he dethroned Holloway and captured the UFC featherweight belt. A rematch was in order for July of the following year. The 31-year-old Australian entered the Holloway rematch riding an 18-fight win streak, and he successfully defended his title against Holloway in a closely contested bout. This solidified Volkanovski's position as the top featherweight in the world. The following year, Volkanovski got his first headline at UFC 266. And this was one of the best UFC fights in history. In the third round, he somehow escaped Brian Ortega's deep guillotine choke, and then successfully defended his UFC featherweight championship with a unanimous decision win. The following spring, he was the main event at UFC 273 in Jacksonville. He continued his reign of dominance over the featherweight division with a 4th-round TKO win over the Korean Zombie. A couple months later, he would have his last fight in the featherweight division at UFC 276. Volkanovski brought an emphatic end to his trilogy with Max Holloway, defeating him for a 3rd time via unanimous decision. The champion outscored Holloway as decisively as possible for a match that went the distance, and put together a resume that's in the running for the greatest of all time for that weight class. And then he switched to the lightweight division at UFC 284. The number 1 and number 2 pound-for-pound matchup was everything UFC fans hoped it would be. But in the end, Islam Makhachev emerged victorious over Volkanovski, winning a close yet unanimous decision. The loss was Volkanovski's first in the UFC. Volkanovski returned to featherweight and faced interim champion Yair Rodriguez in a title unification bout for the UFC Championship at UFC 290. A vicious right hand cracked Rodriguez, and it was apparent he didn't like it. Volkanovski quickly closed the distance and swarmed with punches, prompting referee Herb Dean to call the fight as Rodriguez covered up. The featherweight king defended his crown for the 5th time and remained unbeaten in his UFC career at 145 pounds. Now let's take a look at his contracts and earnings. Volkanovski's first fight would earn him $12,000 and another $12,000 as a win bonus. But after becoming champion of the featherweight division, his contract improved. Volkanovski would then make $350,000 guaranteed per fight, and another $100K as a win bonus. It went up to $400,000 versus Chan Sung Jung, and then $500K versus Max Holloway. And as we all know, with cash comes controversy. We'll get there soon. But his fight against Islam Makhachev would shatter all those numbers. He earned $1 million in base pay, $200,000 in pay-per-view payout, a performance bonus of $20K, and $42,000 for the Venom sponsorship deal. He walked away from that fight with an extra $1,262,000 in his pocket. And somehow he made even more when he faced Yair Rodriguez. He earned $1 million in base pay, and an extra $500K in pay-per-view buyouts and sponsorship deals, bringing his fight total to $1.5 mil. So now that we know what he makes, how does he spend his cash? But first, if you're liking this video, hit that subscribe button and tell us which fighter we should cover next. Volkanovski has stated that he's a family man through and through, so he doesn't live too lavishly. But that didn't stop him from buying this custom F1 Jaguar, which goes for a cool $108,000. And just 2 months after becoming a UFC World Champion, he bought a $1.2 million home that backs onto Windang Beach. Now for some moments that caused some waves in Volkanovski's career. Volkanovski does his best to stay out of the spotlight, but some pretty serious accusations arose after UFC 284, after lightweight champion Islam Makhachev defended his title. Accusations of cheating through IV liquids were made by Volkanovski's team. Makhachev's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, defended him and suggested Volkanovski might have cheated too, citing Volkanovski weighed 2 pounds heavier during their fight. Discussions within the MMA community followed, with the UFC warning athletes about IV fluids. Time to talk about his personal life. Because of his paternal Macedonian and maternal Greek heritage, he uses the nickname The Great in reference to Alexander the Great. Volkanovski got married to Emma back in 2015, and they have 2 daughters together. In 2023, he announced Emma was pregnant with their 3rd child, though he didn't seem too happy with the gender reveal. He's even penned a children's book in hopes it will debunk the perception of fighters as thugs. Volkanovski has a single boxing bout, which was a super welterweight fight he won by unanimous decision in 4 rounds against Dylan Bargero. He was also the head coach in the return of The Ultimate Fighter. He went head-to-head against Team Ortega, and his fighters won both the middleweight and bantamweight brackets of the show. They made sure to have fun though. Because Ortega was notoriously late, Volkanovski's decided to put clocks up everywhere. Ortega did get him back though.
Oh, that's real? This one really wants to strangle me, mate.
Although based out of Australia, Volkanovski regularly travels to Thailand to train at Tiger Muay Thai with Valentina Shevchenko. Now, at this point, you probably want to know about his net worth. As we mentioned before, Volkanovski just had his biggest payday ever, and those numbers are going to continue to rise. Having said that, his total career earnings to date are $8,800,000, and his net worth is an astounding $3.5 million. Thanks for watching.